How y'all doing? Okay, so by this time, you already know what it is. It is my weekly reading wrap up. Let's get into it. I read 6 books this week, if I'm counting right. Yeah, I read 6 books this week, but I also met with the SugaHoney book club this week, and I was so excited. Oh my God, it warms my heart. I did not know how that was going to go. This is my first time hosting a book club in adulthood. And not only hosting it, but curating it and working with the Steamy Lit team to really build this into something that is precious and special. And it's always like the challenge of trying to make something special, unique, and a place that people can come to be vulnerable and also get poured into, while also making it scalable. Like, we want this to grow. We want this to have a place in as many people's hearts as it can. But we also want it to always feel like a tight knit space. So I was super nervous, didn't know how it was going to go, but it went well. Great conversation, great reading material, great people. Oh my goodness. I'm beyond grateful for the time, the communication, just the vibes, right? The funny thing is, the first time I ever went to Steamy Lit, back when they were in Deerfield, there was only 2 locations. It's now 3, Fort Lauderdale, Tampa, and Miami. But last year it was only 2 locations, and one of them was Deerfield. The first time I ever went was the first week of February. Now, a year later, the last week of January, here I am hosting a book club with them that I curated. It's unreal. And pun intended, we read Real by Kennedy Ryan, and we really got deep into the discussion, not just talking about the surface level of things, but also diving deep into family conflict, communication issues and relationships, mom-daughter relationship, sister-daughter relationship, which I guess is family conflict, and the Harlem Renaissance and what it meant for Black people to be persecuted on a daily basis, you know, just for being themselves, and then running to the arts for reprieve, running to each other for embrace. The bit of the sapphic romance that we got here with Desi and Tilda, we dived into it, and I was so impressed with what we were able to do in a very short amount of time. It was like an hour and a half, and it was over 30 people who came. So it was so good, and it just warms my heart, because that is a place that I would have wanted to be, even if I wasn't hosting. It felt good. And what I loved is, after the conversation, people lingered around. Just was, I think, happy to be around us. Smelled like shea moisture, cocoa butter, tastes like honey, and felt like a warm embrace. I was so pleased with our first kickoff. Next meeting is in February. If you're interested, I will have a link below on how you can sign up. The actual reading wrap up. I finally got into Love Belvin universe, child. They were on me about Love Belvin. So I read the Love Improbable series. This is where you start in her world. And I started with The Love Lost, the first book in that series. And this was an amazing read. Not gonna lie, there were parts that kind of got slow, because we're expanding across the FMC's like a decade in her life, where we meet her when she's in school, and we end the story with her being a young adult. It's a bit of a cliffhanger, but it's not the cliffhanger with all the drama. It's the cliffhanger like, wait a minute, what, we stopping here? Okay, I guess I got to come back. Like, it's like not a bit crescendo, but it's enough to where you definitely want to come back, because none of your questions are answered. Not one. It's so much that still needs to be unveiled. Love the story. Definitely giving some of the air notes of urban fiction that we love. Definitely kind of playing with this type of fated lovers romance that we have here. But I will say, Love Belvin is giving us something different that I don't think I see with a lot of authors. She's definitely giving us vocabulary, honey. Okay. Words in there. There are a few words that you will have to look up, or I had to look up. My vocabulary is not as rich, which was fine. We love that. But she's also bringing back courtship, if you feel me. Like, I am so used to the urban fiction pacing where, you know, it's like boy meets girl. They don't even fully fall in love. They just fall. The in love part don't even start to happen. Once they start falling and maybe it's a little lust happening, he takes her up out of whatever situation she's in, good, bad, or indifferent. Now you come, you live up under me. You are now my wife. You live in my house. You live my life. Like, that's not happening here. These are two people that have their own paths, their own trajectory, who just happen to cross over by choice. All right. When our FMC and our MMC are coming together, it is intentional, and it is not with a lack of preparation, because they both have their own very strong careers. I love seeing the courting that's happening. There's actual dates being planned. It's actually a moment where the MMC offers the FMC to come to Mexico with him on a business trip. And child, it was a real business trip. Now, the business that he was getting into may not be what she was aware of, but he really had stuff to do. So he was really leaving her in the hotel and going out and working during the day. And both me and the FMC, as I'm reading the book, is like, oh, righty then. Nothing's going to happen here. You don't want to. Oh, okay. We were shocked. We were flabbergasted. Like, we not about to do nothing. Okay, sir. All right. But there's mention of menstruation, right? There's mention of contraception. There is sharing of STI results, like lab results. It mirrors some of the things that I think is more consistent with modern life versus like bookland. So yeah, I'm having a time. And I will say, if you're doing the audio for this, because this type of book, I actually wanted to read on my Kindle. I love the pace. I wanted the physical copy, if I'm honest. I love the pacing of urban fiction, of urban romance, and just the way the plot is built out. So I started it there, but then I found out that Miles Washington and Wesley Chabon was on the audio. Girl, had to immersive. I had to immersive read it, because Miles Washington was built for these type of like gangsta in a suit characters. And that's exactly what the MMC is giving here. Love this book. Thank y'all so much for inviting me into the LBU. I'm here, baby. Ain't going nowhere. So I will continue on with this series and all the other series in sequential order. I'm not gonna mess it up. Oh, actually, side note, I just got the new Restore Me book, which I wanted to show you guys. So I thought this was crazy. So this is the original Restore Me. This is the original Restore Me, the first like release of it. And then this is the re-release. Look at the difference in the scale. Did y'all see this? I ain't hear nobody talking about this. Like, look how much thicker the re-release is. Still incredibly beautiful. I've already read this book, but I'm definitely I just want the other version on my bookshelf, because it's gorgeous. And yeah. Next book I read was Gold from the St. Louis Sire series. Now, this is a book that we'll be discussing in SugaHoney Black Romance Book Club at the end of February 22nd, that Sunday. So excited to dive into that. But to be real, I've already talked about this because I read it earlier this month. But I'm noting it again because I read it and I like annotated the physical copy. So definitely read it. It's Alexandria House, which no brainer. It's also a sports romance, and it's hockey. It's different, you know. Love this series down. It's definitely rom-com vibes. Get into it if you haven't. Make Me a Promise by Cami was actually a buddy read with my friend, and we love a good Cami book. Now, let me say this. I go to Cami for a good time. All right. I go to Cami to get a laugh, to get a quick, one-liner, and she delivers on that consistently. FMC falls in love. It's like a high school sweetheart situation. They break up. FMC gets a whole little music career, is doing well, and then comes back to her hometown due to a series of unfortunate events. MMC is now in line to be a pastor at his dad's church, but his dad is like, you're going to need a wife, right? For what this role requires, you're going to need a wife. And so I will not fully bestow this upon you if you do not have a wife. And that's where this like marriage of convenience situation happens. However, these people were already really in love. So it's given marriage of convenience, but it's also given second chance romance. I do love this story. There are some plot points that I was confused upon, but again, I don't go to Cammy for everything to make it sense. That's not why I go. I go for the laughs. But I would have loved if we dive more into who this FMC was before returning back home. I feel like her career as a musician was just touched upon. It wasn't necessarily thoroughly examined. And it didn't even have to be thoroughly examined, but I just wanted to understand that more. I think it would have made me connect with her and understand her motivation and some of the things that she did much, much more. There's also mentioning of the MMC grieving his past fiance and their unborn child. Kind of want to dive into that more. He had like this secret room in his house that we believe was connected to that situation, but we never really found out. And I do believe this is a standalone. Nevertheless, it was a good read. It was a funny read. It was a quick-ish read. It was about like around 300 pages. I enjoyed it. And because this was a buddy read, you know how that gets. It gets a little competitive. So the girls was like, oh, I'm at this part. So it really put me into high gear. I ended up finishing this book in less than 24 hours. So that was a good for me. My banned book of the month was Black Girl Unlimited by Echo Brown. This was beautiful. Oh my goodness. I'm not gonna lie. It took me some time to get through, much longer than I expected, but wowzers, I really enjoyed the journey that the author took us on here. We're following a FMC, a young girl, throughout her student career. So we meet her as a elementary student and we follow her up into where she is getting ready to go off to college. She's dealing with a lot of like issues as far as her mom having experienced SA, which drives her to drugs. Her mom is a full-blown addict, and she is also the primary caregiver. She has a relationship with her father, but then she gets a stepfather. It's just a lot of moving parts in her life. But throughout all of this, she is striving for excellence in her education. And what makes it a little whimsical and a little different is it feels like magical realism that the author introduced, because the girl identifies herself as having this psychic behavior, her mom having psychic behavior, and other women that she encounter having this thing where she calls them like wizards. They can foresee things that are getting ready to happen, or they can see the good in people or what's bad about to happen to people. It's so well done. High key, I think a lot of it may have went over my head. It was so well done. But it just goes to show the impact that SA and drugs have had on communities. I do also appreciate that the author get into this narrative about Black men relationship to Black women, because our FMC growing up, right? Again, coming of age story, is just seeing how Black men relate to her, and being essayed by a Black man. She really has this desire to be cared for properly and to be spoken into properly by one, which I think on the other side will, when she's older and maybe even expressing these interests at the time that she felt it, it will be critiqued with this type of like pick me mentality, but it's not that. She was just never properly cared for and she never felt protected. So she later on goes to live with a family that has a Black man father figure for her, and their relationship goes through their triumphs, and they finally come to a place where they can resolve. This was absolutely a whirlwind of a story, but I love that it's written from the POV of the FMC, and so we can see as she's young to when she's getting ready to go to college, her dialect, her communication changed, but she always has this great awareness of self and others. Like, I mean, on an anthropology level, she's studying people. It was so beautiful to read. Quick read, I also read Heaux by Netra Antionette. Girl, it is so many good quotes in this book, but the premise of it is 32-year-old FMC who takes her life into her own hands and celebrate Valentine's Day as a single. She goes to Louisiana, have an amazing time, and she was inspired to do this by a podcast she was listening to. And she's having her Heaux phase. The premise is that a woman who has a Heaux phase, or a phase in which she explored not only sexually, but just explore herself before marriage, is going to be a woman who's more happier in marriage, that may have a more successful marriage. And it's all wrapped in this idea that we're not waiting for life to happen to us. We're not waiting to be loved. We will have a great love, even if we have to be our great love. So well done. So succinct, so short. Really appreciated this book. I was talking to my friends about it because I actually got the recommendation from a friend. I wanted more from the spice scenes. And if you know me, that's saying a lot because I'm actually not a spicy type smutty girl, but I wanted some more because the author she just tapped at it. And then like the next morning, I'm like, hold on, wait a minute. What happened at night? But this was a good, quick time. I actually read it while I was getting my hair done. Easy, quick read. And last but not least, The Invitation. I'm always working my way through Ashley Antoinette's Butterfly, Moths of Flame Ethic universe. And at the moment, I am just completing The Invitation, which is between Butterfly 1 and Butterfly 2. And this was amazing. I was trying to think, have I ever rated the Ashley Antoinette book less than 4 stars? I don't know. In this story, we follow our FMC and our MMC, who at the moment, it's primarily Ethic and Alani, as they become parents yet again and go through the challenges of being married and being pregnant while married. Ethic has some reservations on how to relate with Alani during this pregnancy due to past hurt and, past situations they have. We also get a dose of Morgan, my God, Morgan and her love triangle. This was good. But what really stood out to me, what I loved, is following Hendrix and Bella's story. That is Ethic's youngest daughter and her little boyfriend Hendrix and their crazy story. So definitely worth the read as you continue Ashley Antoinette's universe. So excited for the upcoming release of Butterfly 6. Yeah, I'm making my way through. This was definitely a good reading month for me. This was an amazing first start to 2026. Let me know what you're reading in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe, all the good things. And I'll see you next week.